A couple weeks ago, I was talking about Halo with my brother. Now, my brother is a super casual Halo player. He really only plays it multiplayer at like parties with me and friends, and the only campaign he ever played was Halo Reach, because I made him play it with me when it first came to PC. Anyways, I was talking with him about Halo, and I mentioned the Flood firefight being added to ODST on the Master Chief Collection, and he was like, "What's the Flood?" And I explained that there's these parasite aliens that essentially turn Halo into a sci-fi zombie game, and he had no clue that the Flood were even in the game. And that makes me realize just how perfect the Flood's appearance in the first Halo really was. Since it's October again, that means it's time for another Halloween horror spooktacular, which means it's time for a month of horror games. And since Halo Infinite is on the near horizon, I figured why not talk about some spookiness in Halo. The genius of 343 Guilty Spark.
They seem to have the entire region secured.
So Halo has been out forever at this point, but I don't actually think it's weird that my brother didn't know about the Flood. They weren't really mentioned or shown off in any promo material for the game, or any of the games really. The ads all featured the Covenant. None of the boxes show or mention the Flood. The instruction manuals don't show the Flood. The back of the original Halo reads, "Bent on humankind's extermination, a powerful fellowship of alien races known as the Covenant is wiping out Earth's fledgling interstellar empire. You and the other surviving defenders of a devastated colony world make a desperate attempt to lure the alien fleet away from Earth. Shot down and marooned on the ancient ring world Halo, you begin a guerrilla war against the Covenant. Fight for humanity against an alien onslaught as you race to uncover the mysteries of Halo." There's not a single mention of the Flood. The Flood are also not playable in any of the multiplayers, and until ODST's Flood Firefight, there haven't been any co-op modes featuring the Flood either. So it's pretty safe to say that if I had never played Halo before, I would just assume the game was a generic sci-fi war with advanced technology aliens. But of course, we know that's not the case. The introduction of the Flood in the first Halo is a brilliant example of environmental and gameplay storytelling. 343 Guilty Spark is the 6th level of the original Halo. Over half the game has been spent going from area to area fighting the Covenant. At the beginning of 343 Guilty Spark, you're kind of just expecting the same thing again. Go to this area, find the Covenant outpost, kill some Covenant, blow up some shit, and move on. The level starts off in a foresty swamp. You are tasked with finding the crash site and survivors from Captain Key's Pelican. You quickly find the Pelican, but no survivors. You only get this staticky message laced with interference.
Captain Keyes has been captured by hostiles. Dug in at a large structure in a swamp. You can hold out. Please. I will send this message to repeat at intervals. Dropship Victor 933 clear.
You continue on and finally see some Covenant forces. They're running away from something. You see machine gun fire, bullets from human guns. Still, this doesn't seem too out of the ordinary. Other soldiers have been helping you fight the Protoss the entire game, so it looks like they're finally kicking some ass. You sweep up the leftover aliens and continue on. You enter a Covenant bunker, and there's where things start to get really weird. The Covenant position there seemed distracted. They are defending areas away from where you are entering. Odd. Usually they're there waiting for you. Then you notice some weird drippy green stuff. That's not Covenant blood. Covenant blood is purple and blue. Maybe it's sewage or something. Continuing on, there are dead Covenant. Lots of dead Covenant, with blood painting the walls. And this green junk again. Then you enter a room, finally find a survivor, but he's shooting at you? He's really shook up. Something about turning into one of them? But the Covenant don't turn humans into their kind. What is he talking about? He is really freaked out. More dead Covenant, more blood. You keep running into these malfunctioning terminals. They're emitting this really eerie, unnatural sound. Flashing emergency lights. This base is very empty. Where the hell are the Covenant? Suddenly, red blood. Human blood. Are these the survivors? Did they push the Covenant back all the way here for a final stand? You open the door and are surprised with a dead Marine and more blood. There's a helmet with a recording. It's the survivors. You watch for a bit.
Move it up! Something scrambled the insides.
What's that? Plasma scoring?
I'll try, sir. But it looks like these Covenant worked pretty hard to lock it down.
Just do it, son.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, you always got a bad feeling about something.
Sarge, can you hear me?
What's going on, soldier?
We've got contacts, lots of them, but they're not Covenant. They're just tearing through us.
Not Covenant? What the hell are those?
Back here, Marine. That's an order.
Wait, where are the bodies? This little bit of the level is genius use of environmental storytelling. You don't really get any hints of the Flood prior to this. You're going into this level expecting another Covenant battle. You've already done 5 levels, half the game, you know what's going on. But this level turns the whole experience on its head. It's genuinely eerie, it's confusing and uncomfortable, and on first playthrough, shocking and unexpected. The use of death and blood paints a visually eerie scene. The sounds of static and malfunctioning terminals and receivers create an audibly eerie scene. The script of Covenant running, defending areas away from you, and the Marines shooting at you make you understand that something isn't right. And then the bodies that are missing after watching the helmet recording perfectly leaves you with questions as the Flood appear. Starting off with these little spores, and then the zombie bodies enter, explaining your questions. It's a sudden and unexpected creepy level in a game that typically comes off as just a sci-fi war game. And the feelings of dread just build as the level goes on. You see Covenant struggling to fend them off. The Flood can jump insane distance, leaving no area safe. When you reunite with the Marines, you see them getting swarmed and overwhelmed by the endless number of the Flood. It's a total zombie experience. But the Flood inclusion also impacts gameplay as well, giving the player a sense of dread induced by gameplay, which is just brilliant. After playing through 5 levels, players begin to get a feel for the game. They understand the Covenant AI. They understand how they take cover, and that you can take cover to repair your shield. The Covenant might try to flank you, but it's military tactics, and their main form of attack is still far range with guns. You get used to holding on to plasma weapons to delete their shields quicker and easier, so you can quickly follow up with another gun to finish them off. There's a combat loop that the player is lulled into, but the arrival of the Flood turns that established combat loop into a false sense of security. The Flood do not act like the Covenant do. They're more primal, more savage. Their behavior is more aggressive. They'll lunge at you from across the map, charging right at you to tear at you. If you stay still for too long, you will get surrounded and overrun. You have to keep moving. You can't just sit around and wait for your shields to replenish because they will be right on your ass. The Flood forces players to reevaluate what they think about Halo's combat loop, and forces them to take a more aggressive playstyle than compared to the Covenant. Plasma weapons are less important. The Flood don't have overshields, so just fill them with bullets. The shotgun becomes more important. The Flood like to get close, so be ready. And fast shooting weapons become more important for the spores. Their overwhelming numbers means you need to fire off quickly. And then in levels after this, where the Flood and Covenant are mixed together, it forces the player to adapt quickly to what enemies are being thrown at them. I just really like this level. It's very memorable due to how different it is in its design and tone. The Dead Covenant and blood-soaked walls really stick with you, and you never forget your first encounter with the Flood. It's such a creepy level for a series that doesn't really focus on horror.